What's up, Ravens fans? Welcome into a Week 4 edition of Ravens Unscripted. A lot to get into. We're going to react to that loss in Kansas City, but also look ahead to the home game against the Cleveland Browns. We've got a jam-packed couch here. Garrett, we know. Ryan, we know. Jeff Zrebiec back with us of The Athletic. Fellas, good to be with you. We start with 4 downs. First down, Garrett, just general takeaways, impressions, what you learned from the loss in Kansas City.
Well, look, it stings to lose any game, but let's be honest. If you were to go back at the start of the season, we all pull out the schedule, you go win, loss, you go through the entire thing. I bet that all 4 of us on this couch may have put Kansas City as a loss.
Whoa, speak for yourself here, buddy. Are
you predicting the 16-0? I mean, this is a game when you look at the schedule that is probably one of the toughest, if not the toughest game on the schedule. Former MVP from last season, most explosive offense in the league. Their home opener, the loudest stadium in the NFL. You put all that together, and the Ravens still went there. They lost by 5 on a day where the quarterback took a little bit of a ways to get going. It wasn't sharp early on. They had some key calls go against them over the course of the day. I think you consider all that, and you got to feel pretty good about how the Ravens came out of this game. They showed that they can play with any team in the league, and they still are up in the division, and now they have a game coming up against a division opponent with a chance to take a 2-game lead. I think you don't let this one linger. You get over it really quickly.
To me, this game, the Ravens were facing 2 big deficits, and it could have gotten out of hand in Kansas City, and it didn't. And to me, that showed, specifically from Lamar Jackson, the way he rallied, put this team on his back, and made some incredible plays down the stretch. That showed me this young quarterback is never going to go down without a fight. He's going to keep going, and the rest of the team really, too. To keep on pushing this and make it a game, I think said something.
Yeah, I think the timing of this game is important. This wasn't a game in December that they needed to go win to keep alive their playoff hopes or to keep a slim division lead. You always want to win. This franchise has won too many games over the years. It's too good of a tradition to be satisfied with moral victories. But I think this team going forward knows where they're at, knows exactly what they have to do to be able to go on the road and be an elite team in January. And I think this game's only going to help them. It shows that they can be right there. They can beat these teams. They just need to clean up certain things, and they know they have a roadmap now what they have to do going forward.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect example too, where the timing is nice. Week 3 and then Week 9, you have New England. What do you learn from this game that you take the next few weeks, and then you test yourself against the best again in Week 9? Well, all right, let's talk math. Analytics, second down. A lot to sort through here as well. We've got the 4th downs, the 2-point conversions, some time, and thankfully some healthy context from John Harbaugh. Jeff, I'll give you first crack at this. What should Ravens fans know or sort of get ready to sort of change their frame of reference when it comes to how this team's going to approach some of these decisions mathematically?
Yeah, I covered baseball for years, and I thought I was over this analytics thing, but apparently not. This is here to stay, and the Ravens are out front of this. The Ravens and Eagles are 2 of the teams that are involved in it the most, but I think other teams are going to be nipping at their heels. This isn't a thing that just happened overnight. I think we're hearing about it more, but the Ravens have steadily been building their analytics staff. John Harbaugh very much believes in it. We know something about John Harbaugh. When he has conviction on something, he's going to do it, and it's going to involve a lot of decisions. And again, this is going to be how it is going forward. Every decision's not going to be ruled by analytics, but it will factor in most of the decisions going forward.
I think what Ravens fans can know is that there's a lot of brains behind these decisions. The guy who's primarily behind it is a Yale graduate. You ever heard of that good little school, Yale? So here's the thing, is that the Ravens are going to go with it when it's black and white, when it's clear that the best chance for their win probability is to do something that isn't conventional football. They're going to take that risk that we all see as a risk, but it's not a risk to them, and they're going to do it because, we live in a society, I think, that questions facts these days. These are the facts. The facts are that those are the best decisions in these games based on the numbers, and I know that context comes into this.
Yeah, and how does human error and human success factor in as well? Because that's, to me, in sports where this can get muddied because execution of things and a guy slipping on a piece of wet grass at Arrowhead.
Yeah, but you can't bank on that when making this decision. I mean, sure, weather actually is part of the model that they factor into this. So these people take all of this data and drill it down into numbers, and it's kind of what we've seen in baseball. You talked about it. When they started putting the shift on guys and putting 3 fielders, a lot of old school baseball people looked at it and said, why would you put 3 fielders on the right side of second base? Well, it's worked, right? And now everybody in baseball does it. The NFL has been a little slower to adopt it, but the Ravens are leading the way, and I think we're going to just see more of it. Like
you get about 5%.
Yeah, real quickly, what I can say is you can't mix judging the result based on the process. You can't look at it and say, well, I didn't like that play call. That was a bad decision. Well, the play call is not part of the decision in terms of whether you go for it. You need to look at those things independently, and just because it doesn't work, when it works, when the Eagles go for it on 4th down in the Super Bowl, you say, wow, these guys are innovative. They're aggressive. I love it. And then it doesn't work, and you say, what do you do? And just kick the field goal, take the points. You need to look at the entire scope of things when judging and assessing if this is a good product. And real quick, this is something that's here to stay. The Ravens are going to continue to be aggressive.
All right, 3rd down. I don't need a formula for this. Mark Ingram's really good at running the football, Garrett, and this was a game, I know we've seen it through the first 2 weeks, though, that really hammered home the fact that this is a dude you could ride for an entire season.
I think his piece of the pie is just going to continue to increase. We've seen from him through 3 weeks that this guy is lathered up, ready to go. He told us when he signed here that he thought this could be the best season of his career. I'll tell you what, sure looks like it through 3 games.
Shows how much I know. I thought this was not a great signing in the offseason.
We're going to roll in that article from The Athletic.
I thought they needed to get
doing?
a little more dynamic in the backfield, and boy, was I wrong. He's been
We
great.
got 3 straight division games. Mark Ingram's built for the AFC North. I think we've seen that.
All right, you mentioned the division. 4th down here. Let's touch on the Cleveland Browns. The helmet's out here. This is a game that has a lot on the line, maybe even more for Cleveland. Ryan, early impressions, thoughts, keys to this one?
Well, I'm a little surprised by the AFC North as a whole. I thought they would be a better division than they've been early in this season. For this game, obviously you have the Browns who were all on the hype train. Everybody was in on the Browns. Now their backs are up against the wall a little bit. Freddie Kitchens has taken some heat for his offensive play calling. Baker Mayfield hasn't been as spectacular as a lot of people think or thought he would be. So I think that you have a Browns team that knows they need to get on track real fast or all that hype is going to go swirling down the drain.
This has the feeling of a season on the line game for the Browns. Given all those expectations, given the heat that Freddie Kitchens and that offense is facing right now, they're going to come into this game feeling like they have to win this to obviously get back in the AFC North race, but also take a look at their schedule after they play the Ravens. It's no cupcake by any means. They got to go to San Francisco, play a team that's 3-0. If they lose this game, they could be sitting there kind of feeling like same old Browns. That could be kind of the attitude externally around that team right now. Whenever you're facing a team in that situation, it gives me a little bit of concern. I know the Ravens are plenty motivated. They've got their own stuff to work through and be motivated for this game, considering that they lost last week. But this Browns team is going to throw everything out there, and the Ravens are going to have their hands full on Sunday.
A lot at stake, and it's only week 4. Issue or not an issue? Coming up next on Unscripted. Welcome back. Time for a little issue or non-issue, and we'll start with our guest, Jeff Zrebiec of The Athletic. The inside linebacker play, issue or non-issue? This is focused off of last week's game, Peanut and Kenny Young.
I think it's become an issue. This is a copycat league, and a lot of teams are going to see the success the Chiefs had attacking the Ravens in the middle of the field, attacking them with their backs out of the backfield and their tight ends, and they're going to look to exploit that. So Patrick Owasu and Kenny Young, they're going to have to fix that, and you wonder if it could prompt the Ravens to make some tactical changes too. We wonder if Anthony Levine plays more in the middle of the field. You wonder if they give Chris Board a little more run. But definitely, covering backs and tight ends is so important nowadays in this league, and Ravens are off to a slow start in doing it.
I'll say this. Let's not forget that Travis Kelce was on the other side, the best tight end in the league. So you do have to look at it through that lens.
Yeah, I would agree. I just think that if this continues to be a trend over the course of the next 2-3 games, then I might get there. But I think it's hard to make any kind of sweeping judgments based on the Chiefs game, given that offense, that quarterback, that tight end, all of those things considered.
All right, Ryan, you mentioned tight ends, and let's talk Ravens tight ends, specifically Mark Andrews. It was the first game where he looked human, whether that's because of being nicked up throughout the week or the defense the Chiefs presented. Issue or non-issue, the tight end position and maybe Andrews moving forward?
I mean, I think a lot of it depends on that injury and how he progresses moving forward. I'm not concerned about the Ravens tight ends or Mark Andrews as a player. I think Mark Andrews is a stud. This was one game. But teams are going to adjust to him. I mean, you put up 2 100-yard games and a touchdown each. They know that Mark Andrews is really the driver of this offense in a lot of ways. Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown. The Chiefs knew that. They took away those guys more, so the Ravens are going to have to pivot. Some other weapons are going to stand up. But, Mark Andrews is a really good ball player. Everybody knows that Travis Kelce's really good and a driver in that Chiefs offense, and Travis Kelce still puts up numbers. I expect Mark Andrews to put up big numbers continuing moving forward.
Yeah, I think, he was not going to catch for over 100 yards every game.
Yeah,
I mean, I think we have to be
exactly.
realistic here. The Chiefs clearly wanted to take him away. I don't think he was 100%. I think Mark Andrews is going to be fine. I think he's probably going to be their leading receiver before all is said and done.
Catches, touchdowns, yards?
Yeah, as long as, not all three, but catches definitely. But as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be fine.
I think he could end up being the leader in all three. I think it's a non-issue. A week ago, we were talking about maybe Mark Andrews being the best tight end of the league. Now we're saying, is it an issue? I'm not worried about Mark Andrews.
You don't understand how this works? This is called like overreaction, unscripted. Okay, last up, pass attempts. I feel like each year we're always talking about, you got to run the ball more, you got to pass the ball more. So 43 pass attempts, Garrett, against the Chiefs. I'm guessing a lot of this was game situation where they found themselves, issue or non-issue, the run-pass disparity.
Well, I'll say issue. Not for the Chiefs game. They were just so far behind in the second half that they needed to pass to try to overcome that late in the game. So I don't worry about it too much in that sense. But I do think that getting Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards, who look pretty good, getting those guys involved early is going to be a key driver. I think that Lamar Jackson, from what I've seen over the first 3 games of the season, is clearly improved as a passer, and he has shown me that he can beat teams with his arm. But I also think that the Ravens still, at their core, can be a run-first team. They use the run to set up the pass, and I don't think that there's really any team in the league that can stop this rushing attack when you combine Ingram, Edwards, and Lamar Jackson. They didn't stop it all day. And so I still think that using the run to set up the pass is going to be the bread and butter of this offense. And I think that as great as Lamar's looked, and he's been great passing the ball, I still think that running the ball is going to be so important for this team.
And I just want to jump in, and both of you guys can chime in on this. It makes me think, is there any part of this, the way they've started and wanting to throw the ball, where it was just to prove and to let it be known, like, we are going to throw the ball, and at this point, okay, you've proven it, now get back to a little bit of maybe some of the core of what this offense might do best.
I think it's taking what the defense gives you, right? Yeah. I mean, the whole point, or a large part of all of us saying Lamar needs to improve as a passer is if they just jam the box with everybody to just double down on stopping the run, then Lamar has to beat him with the arm. He can, to your point, Garrett. But if the Chiefs aren't stopping it all day against the run, I don't see any reason to stop running the ball.
Yeah, and I think the game situation, I would have liked to see them run a little more in the first half. I think you can question whether they got caught up in this whole quarterback duel, but for the most part, I'm not. They fell behind early. This team is going to be primarily a running football team, and as you said, they need to show teams that Lamar can beat him with his arm deep, because that's going to open up some stuff. He's shown that. You saw, the Chiefs were determined not to get beat deep by Marquise Brown, and that can only help you in the running game. That can only help you in underneath. We're not yet in cold weather football. But, they'll be ready to run the ball in cold weather football. I'm not at all concerned about the game plan and whether they're going to run the ball enough.
Something Ryan talked about earlier, 3 AFC North games coming up. Yeah. Now, if you're going to have an opportunity to have a ground and pound attack over the course of the next few weeks, this is now the opportunity to do that.
Absolutely, and I'm ready for some cold weather. Issue or non-issue, that's an issue. It's almost October. Let's get some fall weather here for Sunday against the Browns. More Unscripted coming up after this. Welcome back in. Time for Ravens Mailbag. If you send your tweet using the hashtag Ravens Mailbag, you might get it up here on the monster screen. So let's start with tweet number 1. Boom. I have a lot of power. Owen Likely. What are the biggest positives that came out of the loss to Kansas City, Ryan?
Well, we already talked about hanging with one of the best teams in the conference, but how about the emergence of the Ravens running game with the running backs specifically? And Mark Ingram, 3 touchdowns. We all knew he was going to be a beast this year, but I specifically look at Gus Edwards. It was really his first game to get him going, and that 1-2 punch is going to be lethal. The Ravens had to get the Gus bus rolling, and they got it in Kansas City.
It would have been rolling even more if they didn't take away that
Yeah,
45-yard gain down the sidelines. I agree. Gus looked really good over the course of the game.
All right, let's keep it going. Next tweet up here. BissMom12. With Bowser and Williams not stepping up, do you see the Ravens maybe bringing back Shane Ray, Jeff?
Look, the Ravens have been looking for a pass rusher for months. I mean, we saw it. They talked to Justin Houston. They talked to Clay Matthews. They had Gerald McCoy in for a visit. They had Ezekiel Ansah in for a visit. And they're clearly still looking based on John Harbaugh's comments about Bowser and Tim Williams this week. I'm not sure that Shane Ray's the guy, though. I think he got an extended opportunity over the summer, and he didn't stand out for whatever reason, and he hasn't played any competitive football in a while now. And they, I think, feel like they need a little more immediate and productive pass rush help.
Quickly, Garrett, we hear a lot of talk about trading for Jalen Ramsey. Is this something you look at in that side of the market?
Yeah, but also teams looking to trade really good pass rushers at this point. Not often. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney was probably the best one. He got traded a few weeks ago. But if you're trading a pass rusher, they go for premium price, premium compensation. I don't know that the Ravens are going to find an 8-sack guy somewhere sitting out there either on the street or on another team.
I got an idea for you.
All right, let's hear it.
Oh, here we go. Eric just walked in.
Arizona Cardinals are winless.
Terrell Suggs?
Bring back Terrell Suggs close to the trade deadline.
Oh, that's well done. All right, last tweet from Ghetto Buddha. Why aren't the Ravens utilizing all of their wide receivers, Garrett?
I'm not worried about this really at all. I mean, I think that the Ravens passing game has been really good up until the Chiefs game, and Lamar still had a decent day passing when you look at it all told. Marquise Brown has been an incredible receiver. Willie Snead got involved a little bit against the Chiefs. I guess I'm just not looking at it and saying you need to get the ball to Seth Roberts more. You need to get the ball to some of these other guys. I think that the Ravens passing game is going to be through Hollywood Brown. It's going to be through the tight ends. That's where they're going to make their biggest impact. And then the other part of it, too, as teams maybe take away Mark Andrews or they take away Hollywood Brown like the Chiefs did for a lot of that game, then you will see some of these other guys emerge. And I think that's where you need to have like a Willie Snead or a Hayden Hurst step up and take on a larger workload.
I think part of the issue is that they did take away Marquise in Kansas City, and some of those guys did make a couple plays, but not a lot. So they need those guys when they're taking away Marquise and Mark, or if Mark's banged up, they need those guys that I think do a little bit more.
I just don't think you need to look at it and say, wow, they need to really spread the ball around and get the ball to Miles Boykin and get the ball to Seth Roberts. Like, that is not the key to the offense in my mind.
All right, keep these tweets rolling in using the hashtag #RavensMailbag, and we'll get them up here on the big screen all season long. Coming up, it's Love It or Hate It. Stay with us. Closing out this edition of Ravens Unscripted with Love It or Hate It, and we start with Gus Edwards. Garrett, love or hate the idea they need to spread the wealth a little bit more. As good as Ingram's been, Edwards showed some flashes as well.
Well, I like what I've seen from Gus Edwards, certainly last game, but I hate the notion that you got to take the ball away from Ingram to give it to Edwards. At the start of the show, I was saying feed Mark Ingram. I'm going to stick to that.
I like
think that getting the ball.
Consistency.
Yeah, I think that Mark Ingram's been great, and I think that he's the clear lead dog in this group. Gus Edwards, he's the hammer, and I think that I really like what I saw. He also showed some good speed, particularly on that 45-yarder that was called back. But, yeah, I'm not giving the ball away from Ingram to get it to Gus.
Can I add this in? Justice Hill, I think, can still make an impact.
Yeah.
He flashed in week 1 a little bit. The past 2 weeks haven't seen much from him. I still like his potential, and I think that at some point this year, Justice Hill is going to make a big play.
Yeah, I would rather, I'm nothing against Gus Edwards, but if you were going to try to get a guy more involved, I would say try to get Justice Hill more involved, just because he has that home run hitting speed that I think they've really benefited from at times.
You're down on the bus.
Not down on him at all. He looks great. But,
Put the bus in neutral. I'm ready to downshift, baby.
All right, next up, Justin Tucker's drop kick. He got 2 shots at it, which was a little weird. Love or hate, whatever that was.
I mean, I loved it. It was awesome. I've never seen anything like that. Everybody was just like, what in the world was
was
this?
a bit
Like
weird.
a rugby play? Or it was crazy. But, I mean, it was also really smart and really well executed. I mean, the Ravens saved the timeout by getting them to fair catch that kick. And I have a feeling that a ball like that, it's almost like Joe's Mile High Miracle. How high did that thing go? And it's fluttering around. I have a feeling that Justin Tucker's kick was not an easy one to field either.
You know how much guts it takes to try something like that?
Yeah.
And then do it again when you kind of muff it to start.
I know. I mean, I'm sure he's practiced it, but Justin Tucker's something else. He's creative and unafraid, and it was interesting. And
no team has more nuance to that special teams unit than the Ravens for all the obvious reasons. All right, last up, the Cleveland Browns. And Garrett, you touched on this. Love or hate the fact, Jeff, that this team comes in desperate.
I hate it from a Ravens perspective.
Obviously, that's the key.
You know, Kitchens is on the hot seat. He basically fell on the sword after their previous game's loss about his play calling. It does definitely have a last stand feel to this, and we're in week 4. You know, they were the media darlings all off season. Some people even had him as kind of the chic AFC Super Bowl pick, and frankly, they don't look very good. And as the saying goes, it's getting pretty late early. I fully expect the Ravens to get their best shot.
I think it's interesting, and I think Baker Mayfield's a really good quarterback. I really do.
Yeah.
But he ended last season with an interception at M&T Bank Stadium. He just threw an interception in the end zone to end that game. I think Baker is going to be a hungry guy coming out here trying to prove himself. That is, I think, something for the Ravens to keep in mind. Baker Mayfield doesn't go down without a fight, kind of like Lamar Jackson. But I still like the Ravens in this game because they're also desperate. They've been hearing all the hype about the Browns all offseason. Believe me, despite the Browns start, the Ravens have that in the back of their minds. They're coming off this KC loss. They want to hand it to them.
I think that's a really good point because all offseason when everyone was talking about the Browns, you heard from Ravens players who said, basically, you know, we still won the AFC North. You know, we think we're going to be pretty darn good, and you can talk about these guys. But like I said earlier today, I do hate the notion that this is a last stand kind of feel to it. Browns are going to throw everything out there. I think that Freddie Kitchens is kind of going back into the lab to figure out what's gone wrong with his offense. They've got all these offensive playmakers. So this by no means is going to be a cakewalk for the Ravens. I still think that they have the edge in this game, especially at home, but they're going to get the Browns' best shot, no question about it.
It's going to be an awesome matchup on Sunday, and tickets are still available. Head to BaltimoreRavens.com/tickets to grab yours. Guys, this is a fun show. Jeff, thanks for stopping by. We'll be right back here on the couch next week to wrap it all up. We'll see you then. Enjoy the weekend, everybody.